Enter the Long Box of the Damned 2021 Bumper Contest, if you dare. Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Patreon-sponsored review time again. And I know nothing about the Dresden Files. I know nothing about Jim Butcher. I know nothing about the novels. I know nothing about the comic adaptations of these works other than someone paid me to cover the first one today. I've certainly seen them around, even as far back in the day when I worked at Barnes & Noble and new books were being promoted. But of course, it's just one more piece of media that I've never actually checked out because there's just so much out there. Someday I'm going to officially retire and just spend every day after watching TV shows, movies, and reading books that were evidently popular when I was young. And then be disappointed that their fan bases have dried up in the year 2089, so no one cares about my fan theories on future Tumblr. So if there's any controversy around these books or future plot points that have been hinted at that I gloss over, I apologize. It's just not something I'm familiar with, and I'm coming at it as a new reader, knowing nothing other than, hey, nice coat on that guy. I busted out my own old long coat for this. And now I remember why I didn't wear this thing while I reviewed stuff. I'm swimming in it. Screw it. Okay, I'm swimming in this one too, but the colors work better. Let's just dig into the Dresden Files Stormfront Volume 1.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. What's with these awkward subjects? What's all this art so rubbish? To anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he is a man who punch sporadically or grouch. Linkara, he has his own spaceship, but he's always on his couch. Linkara, ghosts, gods, a universe in flux. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
My scans are from a trade, and while I actually had hoped to have a physical copy to read along with for this one, the trade is out of print and expensive. Anyway, since it's still from a trade, no looking at the covers. We open on the office of the good Harry Dresden, which proudly proclaims his profession as wizard. Although on his taxes, he's a professional magician and consultant. The IRS can be sticklers about these kinds of things. Business has not been that great for the wizard, but he's suddenly got 2 cases that he needs to look into. However, the mailman comes up before he can head out the door. Nice gag, pal. What do you really do? I'm a wizard, just like the sign says. And no, you can't see the conical hat. I only wear the uniform when I'm on the job. Oh, I get it. Kids' parties, stuff like that. No, pinball, actually. Harry is understandably annoyed by the amount of people who don't take what he does seriously and don't believe it, even if it's understandable. I am the only openly practicing wizard in beautiful downtown Chicago, and I wasn't getting much practice. I've been meaning to transform this stack of papers on my desk into a broom for weeks now, but I just haven't gotten around to it. Harry soon meets up with a cop named Karen Murphy. Don't you have any other jackets, Dresden? What's wrong with this one? Everything. You look like you just walked off the set of El Dorado. And? It's awesome! Harry has been brought into the scene of a murder. He finds some panties under a pillow. Kinky. I didn't realize leaving your dirty clothes around the ground was that kinky, Harry. Do we even want to look at your apartment? He turns on a stereo, which starts playing Fly Me to the Moon, but the music starts repeating itself. I have problems with electronics. I guess magic doesn't like technology. The more delicate the device, the more likely something goes wrong. Ah, well, it's not like Evangelion needed that copy of Fly Me to the Moon for its new dub. Carmichael, another detective, mocks Harry as he turns off the stereo, and Harry is only too happy to return the favor. Still, Carmichael warns him that the murder scene isn't pretty. And it's not. For the sake of not wanting to be demonetized, I have to censor this. But yeesh, it looks like Harry's enemy in this is the friggin' xenomorph from Alien, because the two people in the apartment have chests that exploded while they were having sex. Harry's narration says magic did this, some kind of premeditated act to wreak harm in violation of the first law. Magic? Either that, or really incredible sex. And this is why you consult with your doctor before taking Viagra. Still, despite the joke, Harry was affected by it, and he throws up in a waste bucket. He explains the two ways this could be done: evocation and thaumaturgy. Evocation would be like causing an explosion or fireworks, but the close proximity to the target would mean it'd be easier to just use a gun. Thaumaturgy is more akin to sympathetic magic, like voodoo. Take a sample of their body like hair, then the spell would use the body's own energy against them, like using their own lustful energy to do that. Carmichael doesn't buy the magic excuse. And hey, one doesn't have to believe in it, and there could be another plausible explanation, but I'm curious what his theory is for what else made their heart explode out their chests, because that seems kind of specialized when, again, gun. Like, I'm trying to think of other plausible explanations, and at best I'm thinking of some kind of micro-explosive, but I've kind of imagined something like that would be expensive, and to slip something like that into their bodies, it'd be easier to just poison them at that point. Harry's gut tells him a woman was responsible. You can't do something like that without a whole lot of hate. And women hate better than men. I think there are some genocidal dictators who'd have to disagree, Harry, but keep on being a dick, I guess. The woman who died was Jennifer Stanton, an escort in the service of The Velvet Room, a high-price escort service run by a vampire named Bianca. She does have occasional territorial battles with others, almost like a magical mafia type of thing, but if the goal was to attack her through her girls, they leave the customer alive to try to warn and scare off potential future business. Speaking of, the dead guy is indeed mafia-related, a mobster bodyguard named Tommy Tom. Okay, is that his real name or his mafia name? Either way, this family is not very imaginative. Karen wants to know how a spell like that would even be put together. And Harry is nervous about that. He doesn't know, and to find out, he risks actually breaking the 7 laws of magic, and apparently he's on thin ice with the higher-ups of magic as it is. Please, Harry, I need your help on this. From tough cop to damsel in distress in a heartbeat. I always was a sucker for a dame. The Dresden pulp novels. He agrees to look into it and heads off for his second case. On the way, though, he's picked up by Johnny Marconi, the mobster that Tommy Tom was supposed to be protecting. However, it seems that Marconi wants to hire Harry to not look into the bodyguard's death. He refuses, despite offering a lot of money, and the two lock eyes. When you look into someone's eyes, you see them in that other light. In a black light. My God, the stains on that man's face. Does he not use soap? It's what he refers to as a soul gaze. The two don't see specifics about the other, but basically it's kind of a look into the other man's nature, their shames, their resolves, and how dangerous they can be based on what they've experienced. Harry senses that Marconi wants him to not investigate because he wants to do it his own way. Find who killed his bodyguard and deal with it in his style, and Harry's investigation would complicate that. Still, despite being terrified by what he sees in Marconi's eyes, he refuses to cooperate. I won't force my business on you, Mr. Dresden. It's just some advice. Come down with a flu till things blow over. I don't like threats, John. You're a wizard, Mr. Dresden. A regular magus. It's pronounced magus. What? No, it's derived from magician and magi. Why would it be magus? Why would it have a long A sound and a hard G when the other two don't? Look, don't ask me, John. It's just everyone told Linkara about that in the Infinity War review, and it's actually the correct way it's pronounced. English is a really stupid language, isn't it? Anyway, he says that he knows it would be stupid to threaten a wizard. After departing, he meets his other client at his office, a woman named Monica searching for her husband Victor. He had a keen interest in magic and tarot cards. And there's a weird bit here that probably should have been cut. Monica seems to pronounce tarot so that it rhymes with carrot, which I didn't even notice right away. And Harry decides to correct her, saying it's tarot. And that's closer, but separating it like that is wrong. It's more like tarot. I did try to look it up if I had been saying it wrong this whole time, and it is tarot. But nope, all the pronouncing guides I saw still had it the same way I did, tarot. Anyway, Harry's skeptical that this has anything to do with magic, but again, damsel in distress, so he decides to take the case. She gives him a photo of Victor and a phone number to reach her. He also apparently had some kind of mystical scorpion pendant. Harry senses something from it, but it doesn't seem to be magic. Turns out it was just a really sugary gummy treat. Later, at a bar, Harry is met by Susan Rodriguez, a reporter who studies supernatural and paranormal events for a hack paper. She knows about Tommy Tom's little heart explosion and wants Harry to answer some questions, but he refuses to cooperate. As such, she does the next best thing. Asks him out on a date. I'll pick you up at 9. Don't wear that jacket. What is everyone's aversion to his coat? It's not like the Colin Baker 6th Doctor coat here. I'd understand the contempt for that, although they'd be wrong on that too. That coat is also amazing. But at least I'd get it. Speaking of multicolored things, apparently Harry drives a Volkswagen Beetle that's painted in a bunch of different colors. Weird. Anyway, he drives that out to the lake house where Victor Sells spent a lot of time. The film canister told me somebody else had been snooping too, and they're a litter bug, the archenemy of wizards. It was breezy, cool, and clear. A perfect night for catching fairies. Harry's eating good tonight. By the way, some stated that I needed to let go of my distaste for comics depicting the moon as frickin' huge like in this book, that it's just something for the sake of artistic license, but I'm sorry, it's just distracting. It takes me out of a story and makes me think we're suddenly on a different planet. Or in a 90s Sci-Fi Channel promo commercial. Anyway, Harry needs information, so he sets a trap for a fairy. To catch one, you need bait to lure them into a magic circle, as well as their true name. And indeed, he knows the name of one weird purple-haired fairy. Toot Toot. Wow, I take it back. Tommy Tom's parents were actually pretty nice given the other possibilities out there. Once caught, the fairy needs to agree to a deal with Harry before he'll set it free. Find out if there was anything weird in the area at the time of Victor's disappearance. Toot agrees and soon returns, telling Harry that Victor was here sporting with a woman, aka boning, and they had pizza. Harry sadly has to go inform Monica that her husband was having an affair, not studying magic, but then Harry gets visited by this dude, Morgan, who serves on the White Council, aka the Committee of Important Magic People. He claims that Harry broke the 4th rule of magic by using a true name and binding a being like Toot, but Harry says the law only applies to mortals, not magic folk. Morgan tries to push it, but Harry asks if the paperwork for this is really worth it. Morgan withdraws his sword, and apparently while technicalities aren't worth it for Morgan, Harry's happy to exploit one himself. Once Morgan's sword is sheathed, he's no longer on official council business, and Harry can punch him, which he does so. Look, if you've got council business with me, so be it. Ugh, fine. Look, the annual White Council bake sale is next week, and we could use some extra hands. No, Morgan is here because he thinks Harry killed Tommy Tom, and hopes to prove it. Harry denies it, of course, but that just earns a fresh punch from Morgan. We'll be watching you, Dresden. We'll find out what really happened. Admittedly, with the bake sale and all, we're really swamped, but we'll, TiVo you and watch it later to find the truth. It's all good. We get a quick one-page flashback that explains Harry's history. He first learned magic when he was young, his mentor trying to seduce him to the dark side of the wizardry, but failed. He had to kill his mentor in self-defense, but that's still looked down on by the White Council because he used magic to do it. Still, with the extenuating circumstances, they commuted his death sentence. If he breaks the rules even once, he's a dead man. So naturally, Harry pursued a career that would involve him still utilizing magic. He heads home and, instead of going to sleep, decides to do a bit of alchemy. He plans to talk to Bianca, so in case things go south, he needs a potion that will allow him to escape. As such, he consults a talking skull named Bob that he keeps in his basement. And because I am so amused by the talking, disgruntled skull, I am giving him the voice of the lost skeleton of Cadavra. You know, most men have better things to do in the middle of the night than play with their chemistry sets.
That is how stupid you are. Only my skeleton brain lives.
As a matter of fact, I'm set up for Saturday night. Dark hair, dark eyes, smart, sexy as hell. Really, if she's so great, what's she doing with you? I could juggle what you know about women.
There are those who feel threatened by me whenever I threaten them.
Bob agrees to help him make the escape potion, but only if they also make a love potion. Harry eventually agrees since he just has to make the potion. He doesn't have to use it. This is just a really roundabout way of Bob trying to tell Harry that he loves him. Harry goes to Bianca's mansion and is let in. Once he's in the room with her, he gets down to business, saying he's here to talk about Jennifer Stanton's murder, and Bianca leaps across the room to attack him. Fortunately, one does not go into a vampire's den unprepared, and while the guard confiscated his knife, the dude's a wizard after all. He captured a bit of sunlight and kept it stored in a talisman wrapped in a handkerchief, using it to repel her as her skin tears away to reveal a bat-like creature. Christ, lady, I only came to talk! Hey now, Harry, some men pay extra for this when coming to an escort service. Bianca, like Morgan, assumes that Harry killed her, but of course he denies that and swears that it's the truth, agreeing to lower the talisman so they can just talk about it. Bianca resumes her human form, stating that Harry is the only one in the city with the skill to cast the spell. She points him in the direction of Linda Randall, a former employee of hers that used to go on calls with Jennifer Stanton. While this conversation is going on, we get some minor bits of characterization for Bianca, how she desperately wants to be beautiful and is embarrassed now for showing off the more monstrous part of her. Not that she isn't willing to show it off in other ways, as she takes one of the women in her employ and feeds off her. It's basically a power move to demonstrate how she can bend the will of a human easily to her own. Now I understood why the White Council was so hard-nosed with vampires. If one could exert that kind of control over a mortal, what would happen if they ensnared a wizard? My God, think of how delicious a brunch I would be! Bianca supplies Linda's phone number and the word regret, which Harry takes to mean that he's made another enemy. Or maybe she regrets showing that side of her to you? Seems like you're reading into it a bit is all I'm saying. Anyway, Morgan meets with the White Council, who deny yet another request to kill Harry. They acknowledge the danger he has, mostly because he's apparently much more powerful than Morgan even realizes, but they won't take any action without definitive proof of his guilt. Harry calls up Linda's number. Who's this? Harry Dresden. I'm a private investigator. Investigating my privates? I like you already. So in this world, Harry could have had one of those I'm FBI female body inspector shirts, and women would have actually been charmed by that. She refuses to talk about Jennifer Stanton and hangs up, but overhearing the sounds of the airport, he realizes where she is and intercepts her. She doesn't have anything new to offer, like whether there was a reason anyone would want to kill her, but when her client shows up to be driven around by her, she claims Harry's an old flame instead of telling the truth. He leaves his number with her and decides to follow up on the case of the cheating scorpion necklace husband. He calls the nearest pizza place to the lake house, the delivery boy apparently having already been contacted by someone else, and they scared him enough to just tell everything he knows right away. There was apparently some kind of big party at the house, and indeed there was a guy all in black taking pictures through the window. He reasons that it was likely Victor Sells who called, trying to track down anyone who would know of his presence at the place. And the photographer? Maybe Monica had hired somebody else without telling me. Well, probably, unless she really thought that a private detective wizard was a neat enough gimmick to shoot your name to the top of the list. As he walks up to his home, a guy in shadows hits Dresden with a baseball bat and tells him to stop sticking his nose in things he's not involved in. The sad thing is, given the last few days he's had, it's possible they could be talking about like 4 or 5 different things, and they don't clarify which it is. Once he crawls back inside his place, he rambles to himself that this is all bullcrap. No, you are not some poor rabbit, Dresden. You are a wizard of the old school, a spell slinger of the highest caliber. You're not a rabbit. You turn other people into rabbits. Given this attack, he arms himself with the most potent weapon for a sorcerer, a gun. Right there with you, Harry. He decides to finally do the research into the spell, and 12 hours later, he's at the police station to talk to Karen. While there, a junkie comes running down a hall at Harry, and he has to subdue him. The cops who take him explain that he took a hit of a new drug, 3I, which is supposed to make you see into the spirit world. The junkie yells at Harry that he can see he who walks behind, which Harry narrates is a real thing. Harry had been marked by a spectral hitman some time ago known as He Who Walks Behind, and that mark could only be seen by someone with the third sight. And that junkie had been no wizard. Was it possible the drug actually worked? Well, gee, Harry, the drug is called 3I, and you need third sight to see that kind of thing. I don't know, it's a real puzzler, and you're the detective here. Harry talks with Karen about how this spell is difficult enough to pull off with one person, but to do it to two people at once is nearly impossible. The amount of energy they'd be expending would be more than it would take to trigger a small earthquake. It'd have to be someone who's really good, or a group of wizards pooling their power. No more than 13, he'd guess, which would require the kind of cooperation and fanaticism you'd only find in a cult. He suspects it's a message aimed at Johnny Marconi, and given the Mafia connection, perhaps some kind of gang war aimed around a magical drug like 3-Eye versus traditional narcotics. Man, PSA Hell episodes would be really different if we were living in this reality. And thus they connect that whoever is manufacturing Third Eye is the one who killed the two. Karen wants a list of everybody in the city who could do this sort of thing, but Harry passes out from exhaustion, not having slept for a while. You'd think he'd at least have taken a nap after getting hit with a baseball bat. Might have been a little harder to do the spell research without it. Karen took him home and told him to sleep properly, but he then gets a phone call from Linda, asking to meet with him that night. It's the night of the date with the reporter, but he forgets about that, thinking he was supposed to contact Monica Sells to inform her of his progress. However, when he calls her, she just says to drop the matter. As he settles into sleep for a bit, a couple of hippie druggies out on the street take a hit of Third Eye, and get dragged away by something in a big cloud of smoke. Yep, PSA Hell, I knew it. It's that villain smokescreen pushing a different kind of drug than cigarettes this time. And wow, that episode was from 2009. Does anyone even remember that one? Harry wakes up later to the sound of thunder. I think the original text was intending to imply that Harry was naked, since he mentions not being able to find his robe in the dark, only his duster, but the artist drew him with his jeans on, so it's weird that his first thought was a robe. I mean, I suppose he could still want to wear a robe over jeans, but it seems weird when the point of a robe is to be comfortable, and jeans are not really what I think of for casual wake-up clothes. I could feel the storm in a way most people can't. Oh, he just means he's getting old and so he feels it in his hip. That's normal, Harry. Actually, it's just that, as a wizard, he could sense a lot of potential energy in storms, elements interacting that could be taken advantage of by a magic user. He wonders for a second if maybe the killer had used the storm to fuel the assassination attempt, but his thoughts get interrupted by the arrival of Susan Rodriguez for the date. Linda's also supposed to be dropping by, so Harry knew it wouldn't be pretty when both were there. While Susan waits, Harry takes a quick cold shower to wake himself up. While in the shower, he spots a flicker of movement of someone moving down the stairs to his apartment. Did I mention I haven't had much success with women? Nights like this are the reason why. Well, that and a bit of the sexism from earlier, Harry, that might have something to do with it. Or maybe you just need a friggin' calendar. However, he soon realizes it's not Linda. It's something else. A spirit being arriving in their realm and disguised by the storm. Susan opens the door, only for it to be some kind of weird demon frog thing that spits acid at her. Fortunately, Susan ducks out of the way and behind a couch with Harry. Why isn't it coming in? Homestead laws. It isn't a mortal creature. It has to gather its energies to push through the barrier around a home. For the 9th time, I told you I didn't want any Girl Scout cookies! Harry pushes Susan down into his basement while the frog thing manages to get in. Harry uses a spell to force it back and telekinetically draws a magic staff to himself. Out! Out! You're not welcome here! I don't care about your kids' band uniforms! The chocolate bars they sell suck! With the realization that the demon frog is a bit more powerful than he can handle right now, Harry calls down to Susan and tells her to drink the escape potion that'll allow her to teleport away. She drinks something, but it doesn't seem to work. However, she then comes up from the basement and starts shooting at the frog. The distraction allows Harry to go down and quickly set up a protecting spell around themselves to keep its acid from hitting him. Unfortunately, while the two are protected from it, they have to wait inside the tight circle for 10 hours. Once dawn hits, it'll have to leave. Bob sadly informs Harry that Susan didn't drink the escape potion. She drank the love potion. We're going to die tonight, aren't we? Have you ever thought you'd want to die making love? I mean, death by snoo-snoo might seem fun, but given the whole heart exploding thing from earlier, I'm guessing dying while having sex isn't quite as neat. Bob, I swear I'm gonna lock you in a wall safe for the next 200 years! It's not my fault! There's enough blame to go around. You shouldn't have insisted he make the dumb potion. Harry really should have dumped it into the grass or something by now. She keeps trying to have sex with him during all this. She was beyond reason. The potion had kicked her libido into suicidal overdrive. Marketing really needs to be more accurate on the title of this thing. Horny lust potion is kind of different from a love potion. So it turns out Bob isn't the skull so much as he's inside the skull, and Harry agrees to let him out for 24 hours so he can get the escape potion to him.
For only by understanding the enemy can we ever hope to understand the enemy.
The two drink the potion and, like a transporter beam, are converted down into millions of pieces before reforming outside. Harry tries to get her to a road that always floods, since apparently this creature will die if it tries to cross running water. Dumb question, maybe explained in the book, but what the hell is the difference between running water in a flooded stream and the running water falling down from the sky? Also, man, what a crappy frog if it can't handle water. A figure magically cloaked in the storm speaks to Harry, the one who is responsible for all this. Harry senses that it's not so much a person as a phantasm, something sent to speak for its creator, as it tells Harry he'll be dead once the demon comes out. Harry then sends the magic equivalent of a slap at him. How did you do that? I went to school. Eat me, Ferris Bueller. The demon emerges and Harry uses his magic to dispel the phantasm. Susan is passed out, possibly as a result of the mixture of the two potions, and while Harry reasons he can outrun the demon, he can't do it while carrying Susan, and he's not going to leave her to die. As such, he figures out that he can use the lightning in the storm to his advantage, while still naked. I sent my senses upward, taking hold of the formless powers and drawing them toward me, toward the tip of my staff.
Hey, phrasing!
Thus he channels the lightning through his own body and into the demon, frying it. And so our comic ends with him collapsing on the ground and asking Susan if she's free next Saturday. I've been on worse first dates. This comic is pretty decent. There's a prequel story also included in this that shows when Harry first met Karen, trying to rescue a kid who had run away from home. It's not really important to the story, so I'm not going to cover it. It's okay, though yet again, nobody appreciates Harry's coat. Though weirdly, the kid also says it belongs on the set of El Dorado. It's a weirdly repetitive description for it. Anyway, yeah, the story is good, though of course it's split into 2 volumes, so we only have the first half. But in that time, it does a good job of juggling its various plots, while also giving us a lot of information about Harry. While he's a bit of an ass, we see that he's still an overall good person and not willing to sacrifice others for himself. We also get a sense of just how the entire world seems to be against him. Even the people who seem to be his friends and allies, like Karen, are more than happy to threaten him for obstruction just because he's unwilling to supply a list of magic users that she can haul in for no reason. It does kind of help build that modern noirish atmosphere that I think the story is going for, though the artwork doesn't seem to convey it as much as I feel it should be. The art is good, perfectly serviceable, just that it's somewhat generic as opposed to being tailored to a specific atmosphere. That being said, the shots of the lake house were nicely spooky. We might come back to this down the road if another patron pays for the second half of Stormfront, but this is a solid start for Harry Dresden and his world. Next time, we're taking a break from Atop the Fourth Wall so Clive can talk about Frankenstein movies or something on Late Night Double Feature, but when we return, let's check in with our old pal US1 and see him finally confront the Highwayman.
I'm sitting on my couch reviewing comics, the worst words that you will ever see. It's sad that comic book
It took everything I had to hold the image of what I wanted in my mind. Don't get a boner while casting the spell. Don't get a boner while casting the spell.
Hello my friends, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon or purchase a t-shirt via Teespring or Shark Robot. Thanks for watching!